Welcome back to the channel, folks, and to another battle report. It's another remote game where I'll be controlling everything on the table, playing against Laurence, who'll be viewing over the internet. Now I'm using the one American infantry option from the Bulge American. I'm using the Bastogne Glider Rifle formation and with a bit of armoured support. So that's a new list for me to try out today. And Laurence is going to be using Panzer Grenadiers from German Pincer, and he's never really used armoured Panzer Grenadiers before. He's always used his Grenadier or Panzer Grenadier forces as a defensive element, so this will be something new for him too. Now before we get started and get over to the lists, just to be a reminder that I played Rob from Valley Gaming last week, and the battle report should be up this weekend, so check out Valley Gaming, watch this game. It's quite an intense game, as you'll see when you hopefully watch it, and give them a sub, guys, you know, because they're putting out regular Flames of War content, and a subscription goes a long way to helping YouTube think this is worthwhile content and promote it a bit further afield. So check them out, and let's go over and have a look at the lists. So the Yank list. Glider Rifle Company. The formation is quite small, but I'll go through that. So there's 2 core platoons, which have got the 7 bases plus mortar, light machine gun, in this case 2 bazookas. Company command and another platoon that's the same. And then a platoon of 3 mortars. Now, mortars and 3s aren't my favourite. I prefer mortars and 4s, but in order to get 4 you have to buy 6 for this list. That in itself is actually quite attractive. A 6 mortar veteran skilled mortar platoon is actually quite good, but it just eats up the points. It's 10 points, and I wanted to get other things into this list, so I decided to go with the 3, and that's the core formation. Then it's 4 units, which isn't fantastic, but they do have a 3+ last stand, so kind of like the Germans there. They do have a degree of staying power, I think. So there's no anti-tank guns in the formation because I wanted to take the heavier anti-tank guns, the 3-inch ones, with their anti-tank 12. The anti-tank guns, they come in the formation at just 57 mils, and they're okay, but these guys are going to hurt, you know. They obviously cost more points, but they are going to hurt the opposition. And then in support, you can see for artillery, the usual 3 priests, and then scouting. I kind of like these guys. I didn't think I would want to use them. I thought I'd just paint them up and get rid of them, but I'm finding them quite useful, to be honest. Just a wee scout platoon with the 2 greyhounds, a mortar jeep and machine gun jeep. And then tank support, we've got 4 76 mils. The second one is a jumbo, once again 76 mil. And then 4 chaffies with obviously anti-tank 10. You know, it's a wee light tank, front armour 4, anti-tank 10, tactical 12. You know, it's a cheap little platoon of anti-tank 10 to perhaps beat up some softer front armour, or maybe some side armour on the likes of Panthers and Panzer 4s and such likes. So that's the tank support, that's the artillery, that's the anti-tank guns, and that's your recon. And everything will be on the table in a defensive mission except the tanks. But I think there's enough there to hold out and hold the ground long enough for the reserves to come in. So there you go, folks. I'm looking forward to using a Yank infantry list, and here it is. Laurence's Panzer Grenadier formation. It's a tough, large, central formation. Most of the points are in the core formation here. So you have your company command with half track, 2 platoons, full platoons, with half tracks. Now these don't have any Shrek, so they've just got a Faust, but there's still 3 Fausts there, which is really good if they have to deal with any tanks. And then still within the formation, 3 Panthers and 2 Grills. Now the Grills can bombard as well. That'll be handy for digging out infantry. They'll be re-rolling hits, which is tricky against careful troops. It's easier against trained, but they've still got a very good firepower in bombardment, even better in direct fire, with the re-roll saves required in direct fire as well. So that's all in the core formation, most of the points. And then in support for artillery, the good old Wesps. Once again, these guys are good for digging out infantry because they have the 3 up firepower instead of the 4 up for mortars or lighter artillery. And they've got the Observer, Panzer 3, and then some mobile anti-tank, 4 Marders. It's best to think of these as mobile anti-tanks rather than some kind of tank, because they've got nothing really to speak of in the way of armour. But they are mobile, you can take them where you need, you can shoot and scoot them, you can blitz them and do all the kind of things that can be a real advantage if you want to get your guns into the best position to fire. So it's not a huge force. There are only 3 core tanks, so if they go, these infantry are going to have a lot to do, but these Panthers have got a lot of support with them. Grills, Wesps, Marders. Laurence's Panzer Grenadiers. The Grill 15cm gun platoon is rated as Careful, Confident, Veteran. But note that it's got a 6+ counter attack because it's a self-propelled gun. Likewise, its assault is only a 5+, but it does have the last stand of 3+ for the third right rule. The armour's not too bad on this thing, even though it's just an assault gun. It's got 4 on the front, 1 on the side, 0 on the top. The most significant thing about this weapon though is the gun. It's a 15cm infantry support weapon mounted in the 38T chassis. So in bombardment it's got a 56-inch range, anti-tank 3, firepower 2+. In direct fire, it has a 16-inch range, rate of fire 1, anti-tank of 7, and firepower of auto. Now it's also got brutal, forward firing and slow firing. So basically that means you're shooting at what's in front of you, you're at a penalty if you're on the move, but importantly, anything you hit, any soft team such as a gun team or an infantry team, has to make successful saves against you, otherwise they're dead because you have that auto firepower. So very effective either as a bombarder or coming in to give the coup de grace perhaps to some persistent infantry that you've just not been able to clear out. They only come in platoons of 2, otherwise you would probably see a lot of these guys getting used in the game. The 3-inch tank destroyer platoon is a towed anti-tank weapon. It is rated as Careful, Confident, Trained. It's got a 5+ assault though because it is a gun. The saving throw is 4, which is typical for an anti-tank team. It has no tactical move. That means you cannot move it and fire. You can only move it dash, and that's pretty much 4 inches in the best circumstances. And it's got a 6+ cross check. Now the range of the weapon is 36 inches. It has got a halted rate and fire of 2, anti-tank 12, firepower 3. So it's got an effective anti-tank rating and a decent range. It's kind of like a Pak 40 with a little bit more range, but important to note it's not got any HE, so it's not going to be as effective as shooting at gun teams, infantry and such likes. Much more of a dedicated anti-tank weapon. The Bastogne Glider Rifle Platoon is rated as Careful, Confident, Veteran. So that's a very highly skilled unit, and it's also got a 3+ last stand for the nuts rule. And note it's also an observer, so the command can call in artillery. Now the platoon itself can be made up of quite a lot of different weapons. Its core weapon is a rifle team, a Garand rifle team, so it's only rate of fire 1. That does, however, make you no more vulnerable for counter fire or defensive fire when you're being assaulted, because it will never drop below 1. It can also have a light machine gun team, up to 2 bazooka teams, and a 60mm mortar team. So you can add some extra firepower, especially the light machine guns, but also the mortar. So that can be used to pin down, perhaps even knock out enemy guns that are shooting at you. And of course, having 2 bazookas is always helpful when there are enemy tanks about. So this is a tough, well-skilled, well-equipped infantry platoon. Today's mission is the last of the new ones from the Bulge American books, and it's nuts. Nuts in terms of the defender's response to the attacker's request for a surrender, but also pretty nuts in the challenges it presents both players. So you can see the defenders in a strip down the middle with the attacker either side, and the attacker can have no more than 60% of their points in either half. It's not an actual 60-40 split, it is just no more than 60, so you could split it in a number of ways. But both sides, attacker split on both sides, defender squeezed in the middle. Now the reserves for the defender are random, and they come on either here or here, so it's into the flank of the attacker. So you can see this is going to present problems for both sides. The attacker is going to find it very hard to find suitable ambush positions because of the small size of the deployment zone and how quickly the opponent can be on top of them. They're going to be finding it hard to hide their artillery. You might be able to get a block line of sight from one way, but maybe not from the other way. And remember, the defender will be deploying first, so the attacker can just line everything up accordingly. But then the attacker's got to worry about their flanks, especially if the defender has sort of mobile anti-tank units. They could be coming in and clobbering valuable tanks in their side armour, which could be tricky. Special rules are quite simple. It's ambush and immediate scattered reserves for the defender. So there you go, folks. Nuts. Let's go over now and have a look at the deployment. So we've deployed. It's quite a simple mission in terms of layout. You can see there's one German deployment zone, and there's the other German deployment zone, and then I'm in the middle with the objectives being deployed in the middle. And in terms of the objective, I placed one here, and then Laurence placed one there. He wanted to keep away from that wood, and I wanted to stay close to a building. And in terms of my own deployment, I've got my armour in reserve, and in ambush my anti-tank guns, and then the scout platoon just kind of sitting there. The priest sitting here. It's quite hard to know where to put your artillery because you could be exposed to fire, but also you've got to have your own field of fire that you can see and draw line of sight from, and all manner of things. But I've put them there anyway. The mortars I've put over here on this flank. Then I've got a platoon which kind of goes around like this. There's some in these buildings here. These are quite big platoons, remember. There's a ranged in marker there, by the way. That's the grills. Company command is here, and then this is another platoon with a ranged in marker there for the Wesps, and this is going around here. Laurence's deployment, as you can see here, he split 60-40 between each area. He's got Wesps, Marders, Spotter and Panzer Grenadier platoon. And then over here, he's got Panzer Grenadier platoon, company command, the Grills and the Panthers. And Laurence will be getting first turn, so we'll come back after that. German turn 1, so in terms of movement, let's start over here. These guys dashed up to get to this cover from the field. He managed to blitz, but the Marders didn't, so Laurence just kept him down there. And then these guys tactically moved up to get some shooting into that house, stayed put, and then moved up because they could get line of sight straight away on the priests. So start with them in terms of shooting. 3 shots, 1 hit because they were going to ground at the start. 1 hit, but it was just a bail, failed firepower. And then these guys managed to get 1 hit, failed at save, but no past firepower because remember they need a 6 for an MG. The grills ranged in here and managed to get a hit on the mortars and the bazooka, but no kills, but they're both pinned. And then using the observer again, who'd blitzed up to there, Laurence tried to range in the Wesps, but didn't manage it, only 2 dice. So no casualties yet, but plenty of pins and a bail. And the question in this game is, what the hell do you do with artillery here? Because they're so exposed so quick with your opponent on you so quick. But I'll also be rolling for reserves, so fingers crossed. American turn 1. In terms of motivations, the priests got back in, the infantry unpinned, the mortars didn't. So in terms of movement, the guys are going, woohoo, let's get the hell out of here. We don't really fancy taking on Panthers. Certainly the priests are probably not going to drive around the side and shoot them inside. So they're just getting out of town now. I didn't put my ambush, didn't get any reserves, which means I've not really got anything to shoot at. If I'd put my ambush I could have shot, but I would have been quite restricted in where I could put them because of where my priests were at the time anyway. So no ambush from me this turn, very boring, no shooting because my artillery is either pinned or has moved. So over to Laurence for his turn 2. German turn 2, so in terms of motivation there was nothing to be done. In terms of movement, these guys have kept dashing up. The Marders tactically moved over there. The Panthers tactically moved over here out with a blitz to get as much line of sight as possible downrange. Here the infantry are now in here, a couple of bases in here, but most of them are in here. The half-tracks up to support. And then in terms of shooting, these guys, bucket loads of hits on these. They had to lift the gun to ground to put some guys into these buildings. They killed him, which is ironic because he's one of the guys that moved to get into that building, but he got himself killed. And then the artillery, the grills ranged in here, repeat bombardment, didn't get any hits. The West ranged in here though and managed to get all the guys in here hit. So 4 hits out of 4, only 1 failed at save though, but firepower passed. And then the poor old priests, who've got nothing to do really in this game except run away, got caught between Marders and Panthers, and between them they both killed 1 each. So they're pretty much kaput. But like I said, they were caught between a rock and a hard place. So the Germans are starting to whittle down the Yanks, but there's potential for some reserves to come in on the Yank side this turn. Yank turn 2. In terms of motivation, the infantry unpinned, the mortars again didn't, and the priest legged it. But I did get both reserves in, and I rolled Shaffies coming in over here and Shimmas coming in over here. So the Shaffies are going to have to deal with the Panthers. So in terms of other movement, these guys are coming back now. There's just a load of Marders over there, and I think it's better I concentrate on holding the objectives. The infantry just stayed going to ground, and then here I tried to bring my reserves on to come over this hedge. I wanted to be possibly shooting up at those Marders, but as it is, he failed and he failed, so I really had no choice but to bring my reserves on, the rest of the reserves on over here or on the road. And I don't want to be on the road because of the proximity of these infantry. So in terms of shooting then, these between them, he's main guns, everyone else used 50 cals and MGs, and they took at least 1 50 cal hit each and an MG hit. That one died to a 50 cal. The infantryman who was in it saved. These guys just stayed going to ground because they've only got these guys in bulletproof cover, and there's not many of them who can shoot. But over here, as you can see, I managed to get 3 hits from 8 dice at long range, needing 5s because of the stabilisers. And there was 1 pass, 1 match, and 1 failed save, resulting in, after successful firepowers, 1 dead, 1 bailed. But those Panthers can get back in and deal with them. And that was it for me, folks. I didn't pop my ambush because of where Laurence's guys were. The only place I could have popped it would have been directly underneath the artillery. So I have to keep that up my sleeve. Actually, there is somewhere else I could have done it, but I forgot. But I'll keep it up my sleeve for just now because it could still come in useful. German turn 3. So this was a turn Laurence should have actually been picking his lottery numbers, I think. In terms of motivation, he didn't get back in, but the platoon stayed. And then he did a blitz. And then some guys came running out of here with loads, as many Fausts as they could carry. 3 guys dismounted from here. The Marders blitzed and then moved tactically up onto the hill. Then in terms of shooting, first of all, the artillery is clobbered that house. So dead-eye shooting for the artillery this turn, and the girls finally killed something, but it's that reroll makes it difficult. So quite a few infantry dead there. These guys in their shooting was pretty ineffectual. There was only 1 guy they could have killed. But this is where it all happened. The Marders, start here. 1 Faust in the back got a bail. And in the Marders, 3 dice looking for 5s got 3 5s. I was lucky in as much as, I ended up with a bail and a dead. 2 tanks left alive, so Laurence decided the 3 infantry took out his half-tracks were going to assault. I had 10 dice to counter fire, needing 4s, and I got 4 hits. So I ended up just killing 1 on the way in. Then I actually managed to, the jumbo took a hit. Oh, they both took a hit actually, but the jumbo took a hit from the Faust, but saved. But then I had to break off, so I lost my bailed out one. And then over here, you got 2 hits, only 2 bails though, but they're still there. They're still quite happy, they're still alive. Right, which meant these guys are in a lot of trouble. They're stuck between infantry and all those Marders, and the Marders are on a high ground. So they're going to have to hope that they can do some super duper saving. And this infantry platoon, the black one, is now taking quite a beating. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them left. And all the infantry are over this side. So I think Laurence is making some good progress. Yank turn 4. No, 3, I can't believe it's only turn 3. This guy's still not unpinned. The infantry did unpin, that shouldn't be there, that's been lying there for a few turns. One of the chaffies got in, 1 didn't. Then in terms of, I deployed the ambush. What an ambush that turned out to be. In terms of movement, I did a blitz to get these guys 8 inches away from here, and then I did a cross-country dash. These guys did a tactical to get into the side armour over here. Infantry are starting to filter over towards this area here, and the armour cars and jeeps are doing the same. And then in terms of shooting, these guys here use 50 cals, a few hits but no failed saves. He fired his Zook and missed, he shot the house and missed. The jeep managed to get 1 base of infantry, or was maybe the other mortar. That mortar, where is it? There. Ranged in. They both ranged in anyway. They're pinned, 1 base died. And then over here, he's actually, I've not put a marker on him yet, but he's gone, and then he fired there and missed. And so that left 8 shots, getting 4 hits on him. And he passed 3 anti-tank, 12 against front armour 9, so it's not a really powerful hit, but he passed all 3. So passed 3 of them, sorry, matched 1, passed my 5 power on the match, but then he passed his remite, so he's still there. He could easily do a bit of damage before he goes, if he goes at all. So, in that turn I killed a Panther and a base of infantry. and the Germans are still in pretty good condition. German turn 4, so in terms of motivation, the Panther got back in and stayed. I think that might have, oh no, these guys here didn't unpin, and the company commander had moved off, so we couldn't give him a reroll. Then in terms of movement, these guys dismounted to go after those poor mortars that have done nothing all game. The Marders blitzed and then moved off to get some shots down the road. And then I think that was about it. So in terms of shooting, the artillery all ranged in over here, and thankfully the grills were needing rerolls because every single one was a 5 followed by a miss, fortunately. But the oh no, they got 1. And then the Wesps on third attempt that turn, because the observer had to use a couple of rolls to bring in the grills, it ranged in. So there's artillery there now, lots of pinnings, so they could be in trouble next turn. Now, other shooting, these guys here killed the jeeps, which isn't a great surprise. They tried to shoot that infantryman there because he's in an important position and didn't get any hits. Panther fired up here, only got 1 hit and a bale, but then 2 shots and 2 hits from the Marders, and I rolled a 1 from a save on my jumbo, so it ended up bailed. And the other one failed its save, but then Laurence failed his firepower, but then I failed my 3 up remount check, so he's dead. There's only 1 bailed out Sherman left. So Laurence is continuing to make very strong progress towards here. So Yank turn 4. I'm so dead, folks. I just seem to be unable to kill anything except Panthers. I managed to kill that Panther there, and then the jumbo stayed, sorry I forgot to mention that, and killed 1 Marder and bailed another, and then shooting and scooted back. Everything round here that was still alive that needed to unpinned, and I moved my armour cars around to face over this way. And these guys are all moving over as well, but as you can see, they're in the open. They're going to get absolutely shot to bits. And that was it for my turn, really, folks. Oh, but I did bucket loads of hits on these guys, but they all passed their saves. 1 half-track killed by a bazooka, and that was about it. These houses are quite full now, which might help, but I probably need to try and get my chaffies in for some close support, because my main concern is losing now to an assault. German turn 5, so in terms of motivation, everything was fine except 1 Marder didn't get back in. So in terms of movements, the surviving Marders are moved up. There's no point in doing him, because he's front armour 11. He's just going to hope I'm going to run away, which is every chance of that. These guys dug in, some infantry plus the company command moved into here. These stayed put. They moved around out the line of sight of the chaffies, and then lots of shooting. These guys took a bit of a beating from getting fired at in the open. Actually, there should be 1 left there, sorry. And then artillery here and here. This one didn't do anything because it was a 3rd attempt, but here I managed to get 2nd in command. So I've not got much left, folks. Let me see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 from that platoon for shooting, or 5 I think for sure. This one's kind of spread out a bit, but there's not a lot left. So let's see if I can somehow hold on. So Yank turn 5. So the jumbo ran away. I was really happy. The scout car ran away as well. At least things unpinned, and so I've not really got much I can do. A couple of bases I've got a couple of bazookas stuck to fire, if I can be bothered. A couple of bases have moved to there, right? These guys have all stayed put. Chaffies moving over, 2 of them failed cross checks. I tried to get them out the wood, only got the platoon commander out the wood. So there was very little in the way of shooting. I think that mortar got a base in the bombardment. Any other shooting, it was either saved or failed firepower because they're all dug in. So that's me, folks. Not much happening and not much to hold on with. German turn 6. So in terms of motivation, they bailed out Marder, got back in. These guys didn't unpin. Anything else was fine. So in terms of movement, they budged up a bit to get a go at the guys that are moving in the open. Stayed put. One Marder had line of sight on Chaffee's, the other one had to move, and that one there, it couldn't really get in command and get line of sight, so he's just moved it. So it's got a clear, unconcealed shot down there, and it turned out to actually be the same as these guys firing across the cover at them. So in terms of shooting, the Marders missed. In terms of everything else, it was a game of two halves in that utterly bonkers a number of hits, like 6 dice needing 5s, getting 5 or 6 every time. But once again, on my part, I actually made saves this turn, folks. Everybody saved, even the reroll successful saves for the artillery, everybody saved. So that's hardly put me in a better position, but at least I could have been gutted that turn with the amount of shots that were hitting me, but I somehow managed to survive. So I've just got to figure out how I can hold on to this now. No way can I win the game. I've just got to try and hold on. So, let's see, my turn 6. In terms of motivation, everything that's still alive is okay. In terms of movement, there was a million cross checks done by some of these guys to get into position and a successful blitz. These guns at the back tried to move out but couldn't. And a bit of digging in, getting done. This group here fired. Got a few hits, but nothing really. Now let me see, the Chaffees managed to kill one Marder and anti-tank guns bailed one Marder, which means they're probably in for a motivation check. But there you go. That's it for me, folks. There's not much more I can do now other than try and get across, kill the Marders, and then try to protect the objective. German turn 7. So in that turn, motivation wise, everything was fine. In terms of movement, he just decided time to go on for an assault, and he pushed in. The Marder stayed put. That's going to leave them in bad spirits next turn, but stay put and shoot. And he did so, getting 1 kill on a Chaffee. The rest of the shooting managed some unbelievable shooting, to be honest. He got 6 hits to pin the infantry here when we were going to ground, needing 6 to hit. That might have helped in the counter-fire, but I don't think it would have mattered because their rate of fire won anyway. The artillery didn't do quite so good. They managed to range in on a third attempt here with the Wisps, so the grills are not ranged in anymore. And then all the other shooting, I think there wasn't much done, just enough to do pinning. So these guys went in for the assault, lost 2 on the way in. That's where most of the counter-fire was. This side, there was much less counter-fire. And he went in, killed 2 bases, and then with my company commander there, I rolled 2 1s to motivate. So I had to break off. So he's in this house, and he's here. But I am also still sort of here, and there's a lot of guys in the open, so I maybe, if I'm lucky, do some slaughtering next turn. But he can still come out and assault me and push me away from the objective. So yeah, turn 7. It's all coming down to here, guys. My guys are at least unpinned. I moved the Chaffies up, kept anti-tank guns where they were because they had targets. And then, in terms of shooting, that platoon is a bit beat up now. What's that? They may actually be gone. That platoon's gone, which means a half-tracks will go as well, which is a blessing. And there was a lot more shots at the company command, but they jumped off onto that platoon, but at least pinned that platoon. These guys got hit and bailed by a couple of Zooks, and then they, needing 7s, tried to shoot at him because of the stabilisers. Got 2 6s out of 3 dice. Sorry, out of 6 dice, but then they rolled 2 1s. The anti-tank guns, however, fired up the road and killed 1 of the Marders. So there's 1 Marder left. I've got 3 Chaffies down here, which I'm going to need for counter-fire for the next assault that's likely to come in. German turn 8. And we've kind of run out of time, folks. So we're going to call it. Now, at the start of that turn, the Marder ran away. The infantry here failed to unpin even with the help of the company command. Or the half-tracks ran away as well. They didn't get back in. They're not such a good remount when they're empty. So there's a platoon of infantry, pretty much a full platoon, and company command there. I could take time to blow them up and kill them. But if they stay in there, go on the ground, it's going to be quite hard and take a bit of time. And we've been playing for hours, folks. It's 8 turns, we've been playing for hours. So we're going to call it a draw. I wasn't strong enough to push these away, and Laurence wasn't strong enough to take it. And it all came down to this assault here. If that had gone in and been successful, then it could have put another assault over here and pushed me away. And the only reason that never happened was because one turn of me actually making some saves, where I've passed every save, even though many were reroll successful saves from ranged in artillery. That kept just enough dice to beat off that attack. So when I lost that one, these guys were left in the open because of the failed assault, and then everything just killed them. Which meant these guys alone, with them over and no more tanks to deal with them, they're not going to get an assault, and it's very unlikely. And we've, as I said, been playing for hours, so we're going to call it a draw. I shall give some thought to the recap after speaking with Laurence, because he's away to get some food. Well, there you go, folks. It's another draw, but it didn't necessarily look like a draw until the last minute. Let's start with the mission. We both experienced the problems that we anticipated, in terms of me for ambush positions, artillery, where's it going to hide. My artillery did nothing in the game. And then also Laurence in terms of me coming in and attacking him in the flank. When I was editing this, folks, I just noticed something about the mission, just confirming my status as what we call in Scotland an Egypt. Just so you don't make the same mistake, I thought the reserves had to come in within my deployment zone. They can come along the whole edge, and if I'd only read it properly, but I'm always in a hurry when I'm making these reports, but if I only read it properly, I could have brought my Shermans on right beside the Wisps and probably have done quite a bit of damage to them and maybe to the Marders too. So, read the mission, folks. Don't be an idiot. It went badly for his Panthers, but it didn't go badly for his infantry because they just smacked my poor Shermans about. And to be honest, for most of the game, I really just got smacked about. I took a bit of a beating. Laurence's artillery was really effective. It was ranging in all the time, and even though my guys were careful, and the Grills, for instance, were re-rolling successful hits because there's only 2, he kept getting the hits, and even his infantry were picking off bases in bulletproof cover and so on and so on. So I think it just came down to the size of my infantry platoons. The American ones can be bigger. I didn't choose the biggest, but these were big enough with the addition of an extra bazooka, for instance. And then 1 or 2 turns when I made my saves towards the end of the game, that kept enough for me to keep 2 platoons on the table. Both of us were getting pretty close to broken formations at the end. We could have played it on if we had more time. There would be very little left alive on the table. I think we were both, our armies were both pretty much exhausted. So it was a hard fought game where Laurence just didn't quite get enough casualties on me to be able to get a successful push on the objective. But hopefully an enjoyable one for you. So remember, Valley Gaming, folks, check them out, especially this weekend, because you won't get to see my ugly mug, but you'll get to see my ugly gameplay. And thanks for watching this video, folks. Thanks to the subscribers to this channel. And if you'd like to subscribe, please do so. Helps us build the channel. And if you hit the bell button, we'll definitely see you on the next one. When